Now then, people, good evening. Welcome back to the Just Joe football show, but more importantly, the ladies' show on a Wednesday. Still searching for that first name, but we'll just go with the ladies' show right now. Listen, you've heard from me over the last few days over a positive result against Newcastle, and then obviously the debacle that was the end to the transfer window. As you can see, we have a full house. We have Danny. We have Eevee back from holiday as well. We've got Kaylee on holiday, and we've got Lucy. So yeah, it should be a jam-packed show. And one that I'm really looking forward to. And no better place to start than with Eevee, I think, because obviously Eevee has just, this. Well, she's been on my show many, many times, but this is her first time with the quartet. So I thought we would hand over to you, Eevee, because I have seen a few of your frustrated comments in the WhatsApp chat and stuff like that. So I think no better place than you to kick us off, really. How are you doing and how was your holiday?
Holiday was wonderful, exhausting, and it makes me remember why you go all inclusive, because my God, when you're having to spend $6 for a bottle of water per child for them to drink that much and then they waste it, the stress levels were up here, and Leeds United, unfortunately, didn't really help that matter either, with two very poor performances against obviously Arsenal and the children of Sheffield Wednesday. But there are a lot of positives to take from the Newcastle game. I was very happy with that. We showed grit and determination, which I think I didn't know with Ampadu off the pitch where that was going to really come from. And obviously, like, Dan James isn't back to Dan James' best, whether that's the level, whether that's still coming back from an injury and been expected to kind of be the Dan James of last season pre-injury. I don't know quite what. Obviously, I have aired my frustrations in the chat about the gaslighting that I think has happened with the 49ers over this summer, and the fact that we started off like we had a point to prove in the transfer window. I think our defensive midfield, like players that we've brought in, I don't think that should be dampened by the lack of attacking options that we've brought in. I really think that we've done a very coherent job with that, very sensible, logical signings. But no matter how sensible a person you are, and I am fairly sensible, I don't think you need a bit of sparkle, you need a bit of glitter, you need somebody to get excited about. You don't often, unless it's a real crunching tackle, get up off your seat for a defensive action. Like, I know obviously now with the FPL, defenders now can get more points with defensive actions, so that does make it slightly more exciting. But I think that we failed right now. Obviously, I could be proven completely wrong. Calvert-Lewin could get back to 2021 season. Metcha could absolutely prove us all wrong. And, both of those stay fit. Dan James comes into his own. I feel like we've been really let down. And I think that leaves us with it puts a lot of extra pressure, in my opinion, on the defence, because the defence have to remain perfect in order. You won't lose a game if you don't concede, but you can't win if you don't score. So now that puts the pressure on the back line and the midfield to keep those clean sheets. Obviously, very, boring / well-earned, however you want to kind of put it, against Newcastle. But it was a very well-earned point. And I think that we needed just a clean sheet. The throwbacks to the Middlesbrough game in the Cup last season, where we just needed a clean sheet after conceding 6 goals in a week. We just needed a clean sheet. So, yeah, I think I am disappointed. I am angry as well, because I think we spent too long dithering over players that just outwardly weren't interested in us. And I was on Joe Blackburn's stream last night, and I said about the fact that regardless of our opinions on Leeds, we have to understand that in terms of the modern game of football, Leeds United right now are not it. And it hurts to say that, and it's awkward to say that because you get a lot of older fans that will come and bite your head off for saying that. But right now, with the modern day, the modern fans, modern players, we're not it. You then look at the last 6 teams to be promoted have been relegated. It just doesn't stack up. But don't waste time on players that don't want to come. If they don't want to come, you offer them a good financial package. You offer them a plan of how we expect us to fight and stay up. If they don't want it, move on. I think we spent too long maybe trying to blow our own trumpet and expect people to want to come. Sunderland, I think, so far could all change at the end of the season, have had the best window out of. And I would go as far to say that outside of really Liverpool, who have that side of money, Sunderland have probably on paper, and I know it's not played on paper, but have probably had the best window.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Eevee. Thanks for, great. Sorry you've had to come in.
There's emotional dump number one for everybody.
Right? That's been building up while you've been on holiday, hasn't it? That's great. Danny, do you have any thoughts on what Eevee's just shared with us?
I'm with Eevee. I agree. They've we did brilliant work in defence and in the midfield signings to bolster and reinforce that sort of bottom spine of the team with Perry as well, even though sometimes we criticise his kicking in games. But then you look at, there's such a glaring gap. I think every single fan was screaming for it, and every opposition fan was screaming the same thing, and commentators and Daniel Farker. And how they can neglect the forward line to that point, like Eevee said, put so much pressure on that back line and that defence now. Because where are these goals coming from? Okay, we know we'll nick goals and here and there, but we're really on a hope and a prayer that one of the players gets on a real streak and, behaves in the way that we needed to have goals, like last season, goals spread amongst the team. We don't have that in the forward line. I think we know that already. So we're in a hope that one of the players can be like a Somerville a couple of seasons ago and really get the majority of them. And then maybe it's Nonto that does it, but then a Nonto or an Okafor or whoever the other players are sprinkling in some to just make the most of that. But, this has been said to death, but you look at the fact Stack's the one taking the free kicks. He's one of our giants in the team that should be in there, in the box to try and get it in the net, or at least keep it in the box so that another player can get it in the net. And he's the one taking the free kick. If I'm honest with you, I'm absolutely fuming. I am really, really angry. And I kind of zoned out for a day, watched some content today, hoping it'd calm me down, ready for the show. And it just, everyone's on the same. I did, yeah. Everyone is on the same level. Everyone is fuming. They've really let us down because we were in by far the best position to take advantage this year and stay up. And Sunderland have overtaken us. As far as at least the work they've done, like Eevee said, it's not played on paper, but on paper, I don't think I'd put my money on us.
No, it's an issue. You mentioned something about having a set piece taker. We're in the Premier League and we don't have a set piece taker. Like that's bad. It's really bad. I mean, look at a certain level, I guess anyone can kick a ball, but you look across, you want that specialist person, don't you? And the fact that Stack, our biggest giant, is also, it's just so frustrating. It is. Kaylee, have you anything to add? Any thoughts on what's been said thus far?
I'm quite disappointed with the transfer window, although I do want to add that I was looking for a striker to begin with, but I feel like our midfield's quite strong anyway. So maybe someone to, because I don't think Pirro is good enough for the level that we're at. I would obviously like to see Dominic Calvert-Lewin do better, but obviously we can't just, if Dominic Calvert-Lewin's injured, obviously he's injury prone, we can't just rely on Pirro. So I would like to see some more forwards, but obviously.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're banking on a lot of this group staying fit, aren't we? That's the thing as well. Like, if we honestly, man, I'm already foreshadowing like the coming back from the international break and hearing one of them's brought down in training, and it'll just be rinse and repeat. Why have they done this? Lucy, have you got a funny take? Maybe, I don't know. Can you add some light to it?
Rearranged my days off so I could have transfer deadline day off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was a great plan from me. So I sat there all night consoling myself, and it should have been my day off today. So yeah, I was buzzing with that. I think the letdown, it's almost bittersweet because, as mentioned, we've brought defensive and midfield acquisitions in, and they've strengthened us. We look solid in both of those areas, but as mentioned, it's the Dominic Calvert-Lewin, it's the Nemecha. My worry is, are they going to stay fit? And I also think sort of the glory has been taken off the Newcastle game a little bit with that last day. I feel like we're all just like appalled by the shambolic end to the window that actually we've got a point against the Champions League side. So I think that has to be said as well. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to that then, Lucy. Let's go back to that, and I'll stay with you. Like, talk to me about that performance. Obviously, you'll have been at the game. It was great, wasn't it? Because a lot of people wrote us off, even within the fan base leading up to that, because of how poor we'd been in the previous two games.
Yeah, they did. And going into it, you could almost sort of feel everyone was a little bit nervous, and we're all looking at each other like, "Oh, we don't know how this is going to go." I remember saying to my granddad, I was like, "I don't know about this one, Granddad. I don't know how it's sort of going to go on." But I was really impressed with Longstaff. Obviously, man of the match performance. He almost buried Bruno Guimaraes and put him in his pocket. So I was really impressed with that. Obviously mentioned before, Dan James doesn't quite look as Dan James as he did last season. So hopefully we can only hope that that'll come in time. I was really impressed with Nonto actually, running at people and actually taking on his man. So that was another positive. But yeah, a well-earned point.
Yeah, I think we might have to do a few of those. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. I thought Nemecha looked really good. I thought he worked really hard. But I thought Anton Stack did have a good game, although towards the end, I think his fitness is something to worry about because he just looks tired at the end of games, especially during Arsenal and Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah,
and I think, do you reckon that's maybe so obviously we had him for a fair amount. Hang on, did we only have him for one game for pre-season? Stack.
Was that against Villarreal?
Yeah, I think, AC Milan, was it?
He was there for AC Milan. He played.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, so, obviously, I understand the whole premise behind playing lower opposition to get your confidence up, your fitness up, and you can't take too much from pre-season. But we don't look as fit so far this year as we did do last season. And I don't know whether that's just all in my head or whether because we only played two teams, obviously, regardless of how poor they are, they're probably will end up above us, Man U, and then obviously like AC Milan are across Europe better than us right now. But, we kept them to a draw. But the quality of the opposition across the board, I don't think has really tested the players during pre-season. So I still think that we're in the latter stages of pre-season, if that makes sense, in terms of fitness. So I do agree that Stack has looked too tired too early. you know, really as a defensive midfielder, you're going to be playing 90 minutes because it's not often, unless we need to change a game to win it, it's not often that you're going to be taken off. You know, it's going to be your forwards and maybe your fullbacks that are going to be swapped and changed. But I can only hope that as it starts, as we progress into the season more, we get fitter, because again, if the defense is going to be relied upon so heavily, they need to be the fittest members of the squad. If we're being honest, we need Bogle to be super fit, because in my opinion, he is probably our most creative player. I'd love to see the stat to see how much. So over the last 2 seasons, most of our goal contributions have come from Somerville, Rutter, and Solomon, and they've all got one thing in common: they're not here anymore. And that really concerns me. I'd love to see the stat of what percentage our goal contributions over the last 2 seasons came from those 3 players, because we haven't replaced them in the slightest. And we've now gone up a level as well. So our creativity has got weaker, but the opposition has got stronger.
I love that I've not thought of that. So now you've put that in my head. I can think about that for the rest of the week.
Yay!
I think on the fitness point, I think quite often it does take a few games of the season to get fit, and we just have to remember, you know, last season, whether some games were closer than they should be, or we even lost the game or drew, the golfing quality, we were clearly at the top, and now we're near the bottom. So they're probably going to look even leggier. I think Daniel Farke will still have them fit. It's just going to take a few more games, and hopefully this international break will help that as well. However negative we feel about other things, hopefully that fitness can be top notch for the whole season, and we can get swinging and then nick games here and there.
Yeah.
But what
go on, sorry.
You go, Joe. I was going to say,
go.
What did you guys include? Well, I kind of know what you think, Joe, from your video earlier. Think about the fact we're not open to the free market.
Is it that we're not open, or that we're not going to openly say that we are open to the free market? Because then I suppose if you say that you're open to the free market and put it out quite publicly, player demands, wages demands may increase if you openly say that you are looking at the free market. If you happen to get a phone call or an agent call, or, you know, I'm not going to pretend I actually know how these behind the scenes work, but if you're not expecting it and then all of a sudden you get that call, you maybe don't have the demands in your head. Whereas if you know Leeds United are definitely in the market for a free signing, people think, right, well, they clearly need it. We all know, like, every pundit out there has rated our kind of end to the window just diabolical, really. So it's not a secret that we need people in. So I think if you say that you're definitely not going to close off to the open, like to the free market, you're kind of exacerbating that need for players, and therefore players are well in control in that situation. That's just my take on it. I'm trying to spin it in a positive way, because, like, I've been so stressy, and, you know, like, my husband had to snap at me on deadline day because I was just not a nice person to be around, if I'm honest. So I'm trying to now lick my wounds and get back to a bit of positivity. And I think that that's probably, if I was them, that is why I would not be saying, yeah, we'll definitely look at the free market.
I don't know if you have had a chance to read the Athletic piece and hear my take on it and all that sort of stuff. And there was talk of, like, we don't want to do things in January and all that sort of stuff. But you would hope, Lucy, that's okay. I get maybe not doing it in the last 2 seasons because we're the best team, etc. But you would hope this January that changes, because we clearly are. Even the most positive fan will we're still a few players short, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. I think as Eevee was referring to, I think she's correct in the fact that they don't want to go out and make that statement. However, I do think we'd be daft. We've not got a 25-man squad. I think we'd be daft to not look at the free agent list and take a punt. I really do. Obviously, it doesn't take a genius to work out what we're missing. And as mentioned earlier, we've not really strengthened. We've not, and that is my worry. I think we get to January, and if there's not obvious signs on the pitch, I think there'll definitely be obvious signs from the fans that they want something done.
Yeah. 1st of January, me already. I'm like, 1st of January, I want some players in the door. we're not even got there. Yeah. Kaylee, obviously, in the lead up to the games we just played, or the Newcastle game, there was a lot of talk of Daniel Farker and some people saying how long does he have left, etc. Bit premature, wasn't it? You know, what do you think to them takes? Because obviously, naturally now with the state of the transfer window, how it went, some are arguing he's got a bit of an excuse now. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, yeah, obviously the transfer window was kind of diabolical, and a couple of performances, but like I think we give him a chance until like January, until the end of the second transfer window, because January it's nearly half of the games are played, so we'll see where we are at January, and then we can decide. But I don't want him out.
Does anyone have a different thought process on Farker? Does anybody? Because I've seen some maybe take the stance of now, well, it's not his fault if we go down, or it gives him an excuse now. Did anyone sort of tend to agree with some of the takes at all, or was everyone on this panel more like, you know what, is it all, you know, everything's good?
I think this has the potential to strengthen the bond between Farker and the fans. I think Leeds United, when we have the bit between our teeth, when we feel like we've been hard done by, when we can see that the players are performing on the pitch, but they've not been supported in the boardroom by getting extra bodies in, extra necessary bodies as well, not just warm bodies. We needed players. We don't just need to make up the squad. We needed players to strengthen and to be game changers. And right now we don't have that on the bench. At least not ones that we've seen before. For me, Dan James is a game changer, but he is already starting, so he can't come on and change that game. He can't tire out tired legs. So I think it has the potential, if Farker plays it right, if the fans get on board with it, to really galvanise and basically stick a giant middle finger up at the boardroom and say, yes, you've given us nothing to work with, you've screwed us over, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to get behind the lads because it's not their fault. And even though, like, over the years, I've been critical of Bamford for missing opportunities, and we've now got a younger version of the most similar profile striker that we could have possibly gotten across basically every statistic going: opportunities created, opportunities missed, injury record, hold up play, everything that we love and loathe Bamford for, we have replaced in a player that's 3 years younger. But it's not his fault. So yes, he will miss opportunities and that will be on him. But us not winning games or us not getting the points that we should have done is not all on the players. As long as they give 100% for the shirt, that's all we really ask, because in reality, we haven't been given the tools to do the job. And I like Farker, but do I think that he is Bielsa in terms of able to turn players at this level from water to wine? I don't, because I've not seen it. It could happen. I'm not saying it couldn't. He has improved players in the Championship. We've seen that ourselves with Dan James, with Somerville, with Rutter, with Solomon keeping him fit and everything. But I do think that now that the window's shut, we can't do anything. And we've all had a moan about this behind closed doors and on camera. And to anybody who'll listen to us in real life. But I think now we have to be galvanized against everyone, whether that includes our own board or not. We have to support the boys. We have to do everything that we can, and that includes not being tools on social media and immediately attacking them for not doing things. It is not their fault that the board didn't bring in the players to supply service for the strikers.
Yeah, go on, Danny.
No, go. I was going to say I'm with you 100%, because the only positive I took out of it was this fan base do really well when we're gritty and when there's a siege mentality. The fans turn up unconditionally, always have game in, game out, will be there to be the noise, be the 12th man. Farke showed something in those 3 games that he can, okay, Arsenal wasn't great, but that he can draw a result out against tough opposition. And if we all do that together, I think there's a chance we have, it maybe won't be the prettiest, maybe the neutral won't enjoy our games, but that isn't the point of our season. The point of our season is to get the points we need to survive. But I think Eevee's 100% right. This could bring us a lot closer and actually just a turn against the, not necessarily the full board, but sort of the behind the scenes rather than blaming Farke all the time. I do think he can be stubborn. I understand why there's criticism. But I think he's the right man for us in this position, actually. I think, considering we can't have someone like Bielsa, he's the right man for us right now. And I think it'll bring us closer together.
Do you agree with that, Kaylee? Obviously, there's that siege mentality as a fan base, and I sort of tend to agree with what Eevee said about this probably brings the manager closer as well, because I do think with some fans there is an emotional disconnect with Farke.
Yeah, I don't agree with them all. Like, you go on Twitter and it's the most toxic place in the world. I kind of stay off Twitter when we play badly, but I feel like as fans, we're a really strong unit, and we're really good when we're united. But when something bad happens, it's awful. We're not a united front.
It's true, Luce, right? Like, this is a thing. I think I hadn't really thought about what Eevee said about this potentially bringing the manager close, because and it just makes sense now as she said it. See, she does make sense sometimes. If you think at the end of the year when there were talk of him potentially being sacked, and then obviously that brought people together as well when we led up to that final game and stuff, and then this has happened, there is a chance that it also does that as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've never been Farke's biggest fan. For me, it's the plan B. Where is the plan B? That might just be me. But I do sometimes think he's a bit tactically stubborn. Now, that being said, the grass isn't always greener. We've done it before and been way too quick to jump into different managers, and they've failed. I think the almost sentiment with Bielsa, I think we're all sort of, we miss that, but we're not realistically going to get that in another manager. There's no manager that's going to go above and beyond the way Bielsa did. And as Eevee said, Farke's not going to, or he's not yet turned any players into world beaters. But I just think that this just strengthens the cause of keeping him. Definitely.
I love this. Vegas said tactically inept as Joe frowns. Yeah, I'm a big Farke fanboy, as it's known in the thing, but that doesn't stop people having an opinion for sure. It don't mean I have to agree with them. But yeah, but when we return from the international break, we've got Fulham, we've got Wolves, Bournemouth and Spurs, Eevee. between then and the next international break. So in them 4 games, what are you hopeful of? I mean, I think the countdown to 10 wins, and Dan Moylan said on the podcast that's what the club are also looking at. With them 4 games, what are you thinking?
Wolves, I don't think we've got an excuse. I really don't. I think they were struggling last season and they had Cunha, and now they've lost him. They've looked like a basket case really for the last 3 seasons. They were in and around us. Obviously you look at the kind of catalyst of our Crystal Palace game and how it completely changed the shape of the league for not just us, but for other teams that were in that relegation battle with us. But I don't see Wolves have got so many financial problems as well. Their money from, was it China, has, dried up a lot, all their commercial deals and things that originally kind of came over to them a few years ago. That money kind of isn't there. I don't see if we don't beat them, they are the games that we should be winning. Arsenal, yes, we shouldn't have got thumped in the way that we did, but at the end of the day, when we stayed up in 21-22, we got beaten by Liverpool on an aggregate of 9-0. We got beaten by Man City on an aggregate of 11-0, and we still stayed up. Those are not the games that we are aiming for. Fulham as well. I now have a personal grudge against Fulham because of this transfer window. So I would really like to see us galvanise and get something. It's away, I think, at Fulham. So still a point on the road is a point on the road. We're kind of thinking very similar tactics of last year of win some of your home games and draw as many away from home as you possibly can. And that is going to keep you up. I think there's far more teams that are going to struggle. I think Brentford is a bit of a false dawn with obviously their win at the weekend. Yep. I don't think that will happen. I don't think all of a sudden they're out of the relegation fight with us. I think they're right there.
They lost at the weekend, but they won the week before. So they did lose. Yeah. I agree with you, Eevee.
Yeah. So I think as well that Bournemouth are an odd one as well. I think they're in a very false position. I think they're 7th at the minute in the table. What was the other game of Wolves, Fulham,
Bournemouth and Fulham? Oh, Spurs.
Spurs. I'd love Harry Gray to come on at some point during that game. I just would love it for my own satisfaction. Spurs are just a funny one because you never know whether they're just going to Spurs it up, even though the business that they've done this season so far, again, on paper, looks very good. They've beaten Man City, but they do have a good recent record against Man City. You just don't quite know. They just got beaten, obviously, 1-0. Was it by Bournemouth that beat them?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So both of those teams have very hit and miss records. So I see us getting points out of those 4 games, and we only need to really get points out of 2 of them. So I think 6 out of 12 is what we should be aiming for. 3 as a bare minimum, but I think we should be aiming for 6, and we can afford, in theory, to drop points to Bournemouth and Tottenham.
Any thoughts on that, Danny? Obviously, we need like 9 wins or a point a game, if you like. That gives us 38. With them 4 games on the horizon, you reckon we'll do all right?
Yeah, I think Eevee's right. I think 2 wins would be the absolute sort of dream situation, realistically, by the next international break. But I think 4 or 5 points for me is sort of worst case scenario, because we have to make sure we're still picking up those points even when we're not winning. So if you only win 1 of them, a draw or 2, just to up that point total, I think most of us would rule out a win against Spurs at the moment. So that's not even on the cards. But could you keep Bournemouth at bay for a point? Win against Wolves, completely with you. They don't look great. So you hope that we can nick a goal in there and hopefully win that game. And then Fulham, you don't really know. You know, we always have that going to London thing, but
London,
that's just superstition. So whether we can get something out of that, time will tell. But for me, 4 to 5 points is sort of minimum that we want to be taking out of that, but 6 ideally.
What do you reckon, Kaylee? Any thoughts?
Well, I think we should be winning games like Fulham, Wolves, Brentford and all them. If not winning at least a point, like you need to be getting the most points you can out of the smaller clubs that are maybe battling relegation. You're not going to win with your giants, but you can get a few points with the lower.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's bang on, and anything like against someone like a Spurs is a bonus, isn't it, Luce? Do you know what I mean? You know, look at. You could argue the Newcastle game, man. We probably weren't expected to get anything. We get a point with some extra additions. We might have got more, you know. But yeah, how are you feeling? Obviously, it's 2 away games as well, Lucy, Fulham and Wolves away. That Wolves one's a big one, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, that one's a really big one. I think you have to come out of that with 3 points. I mean, I think if you'd have asked me before the season started, first 3 games to come out with them with 4 points, I'd have been over the moon. I'd have sort of snapped your hand off. So I think it's just having that faith, as hard as it's going to be, and we're probably all going to feel like we're banging our head off a brick wall. But I think just having that faith, obviously Danny mentioned our history with the London and losing down there. All I can think when I think of that game is Muniz scoring with a Harry Wilson assist.
Oh, imagine.
So I'm trying not to think about it, guys, but you heard it here first.
It's true. It could.
Or Ampadu / Stack crunches him, and then he's out for just a couple of weeks with a strain.
That would be nice.
You know, one of those. It could go either way.
It could do.
Yeah,
Let's hope.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we all need to get our positive heads on, don't we, now from here on in? I think, you know, it's hump day today. So, like, the first part of the weeks were over. We're into Thursday. Let's now, I don't know, try and enjoy the international break. Hopefully we don't get any injuries while the lads are away. I think Rodon, I think it's something minimal. Hope that, you know, Meche, Okafor, Calvert-Lewin don't break down in training. I know, listen, I weren't even thinking about this before, but I do genuinely feel so negative right now, so I can't help but look at the most pessimistic side of things. But, you know, look, it's done, innit? We have to support them now, like, and hope that, you know, we can do enough. I don't know about you, Eevee. I'd just like to see us score an open play goal, and then I might relax a little bit, you know. Then I might be, we can do it.
I think what we have to remember, it's 3 games. We've played 2 out of the last year's top 4, in which we earned a point against one of them. Yes, we got obliterated by the other. And also David Moyes makes his teams, and in general for the last goodness knows how many years, Everton have been very difficult to break down. So realistically, those 3 teams, you are not going to score a huge amount of goals, no matter who you are. You know, you're just not going to score a huge amount of goals against those teams. You give us a team where we can play a little bit more football. You give us a team that equally need the points. Everton obviously have now got more points than us. So when it's the opening game of the season, everybody needs the points and nobody needs the points all at the same time, because you've got another 37 games to go. Whereas I think that Aston Villa haven't scored a goal yet. They're the only team in the top 4. In fact, going all the way down to National League, they're the only team that haven't scored at all. And they are in Europe. So if at the minute, to put a positive spin on it, we are beating the goal contributions for a European, like a team in European football. So therefore, I have no idea what we're worried about because we're clearly going to get Europe now. But I just think that I completely get what you mean. That needs to happen before it becomes a Leeds thing type of, you know, like, but if it doesn't, and if we get another 0-0 away at Fulham, considering how badly they screwed us over this window, that again is not a bad point either. No. So I just don't think right now, I'm reserve the right to completely backtrack and change my mind, but right now I don't think the lack of scoring goals from open play is actually that big of a deal.
Okay.
So I think that will come, and I think that the international break for the players that haven't gone away, and I suppose the good thing with picking injury-prone strikers and forwards is that they're not going to go away with their national team. So they will have plenty of time to practice kicking the ball into the back of the net.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Let's hope that happens. The quicker Calvert-Lewin starting in the 9, the better, I think. I definitely think so. Anthony Goodwin says, not going to the comments, Joe. If you've got some comments, put them up, man. Put some questions in for the chat, and we'll get them up. But I don't know if you have, mate, up till this point. We have had Ian S, who says, hi all, disappointed with the end of the window. Poor from Evans. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know that guy was before today, and now he's my sworn enemy. No one coming in January either. Looks like we defend the season, and fingers crossed. Let's hope so. And yeah, will be difficult to beat. I do know that much. The risk you have to take with players too. DCL is a hell of a player, had a tough run with injuries, but oh well. It's true, right, Danny? We have to hope that we can rely on Calvert-Lewin, and I think Eevee mentioned it earlier about getting that 21-22 version of Calvert-Lewin. And one thing I'll say for him, Danny, he has got on the end of chances, which is more than can be said for the other lads when he has come on.
Yeah, he has. I think with DCL, he's one of those players that most of us were quite aware of what we were getting when he came through the door. We know he's injury prone, but we know that when he's fit, he's a decent striker, but he will waste chances at times, which obviously we're familiar with anyway. But he's just sort of a level up, probably partly because of age, but a level up to what we currently had at this level. So, yeah, I think, I mean, our, as has been said, our medical team have proved over a couple of years now that they can keep players fit, that they're quite good at getting them back fit and ready to go. So I think he was definitely worth the risk. I have no problem with that. Obviously, it makes you nervous that there's 2 that have had injury issues and there's question marks over whether Perot can do it at this level. So far, it's not looking too promising, but I do look at our medical team and think that actually the chances are one of them will be fit at all times, if that makes sense. So if one's out, the other one will be fit.
Yeah.
Like a so I yeah, a little bit, yeah. So I think it'll be okay, and I still have a lot of hope for this season, purely based off sort of that siege mentality and us all coming together. We're the best actually, like Hayley said, we're the best fans in the world when it's good, and we can be really negative. But when those players go out on that pitch, generally, we're the best fans in the world. Even when it's negative on Twitter, it doesn't translate into the stadium.
It doesn't.
Most of the time. Harrison's still getting a few boos, but otherwise, it doesn't translate.
Actually, I know someone on this panel who has a very high opinion on that. How are you feeling about that, Eevee?
I knew that would come in.
You reminded me, and I thought, right.
I still hold the opinion of that. So I know that you constantly said that obviously, you know, Aronson went out. Who else? Verber, etc., went away. difference is that they hadn't played under Bielsa. They hadn't won promotion after 16 years of being out of the Premier League. They hadn't got to 9th in the Premier League with Leeds United. They hadn't scored the winning goal at Brentford that kept us up that season. They didn't have any emotional connection to the club whatsoever, whereas Harrison, in theory, clearly he didn't, but in theory, he should have had an emotional connection to the club after 5 years of being, whether it was on loan, whether it was permanent, it's irrelevant. Solomon had an emotional connection to us last year. He definitely did. I know he's not here, but that's not on the player. He was never fully ours, whereas Harrison, by the time that he did leave, was fully ours. But I am not going to be a hypocrite and say that he hasn't, over the last 2 games, been one of our best players, because he has. He was one of the only players who can say that he attempted to play football at Sheff Wednesday. He came on and did supply Calvert-Lewin with quite a few good crosses, which, you know, sometimes we do know he's hit and miss kind of thing. But I still maintain that I was completely justified in having my opinion on Harrison because of the fact that Aronson joined when we were in a shit show. Verba joined when we were 100% in a shit show. So they had no good times with us. They literally only had the bad times with us, whereas Harrison had literally had that and had extreme highs, you know, the best season that we'd had in, you know, almost 20 years. So that was where my opinion came from with Harrison. Yeah. But I'm also not going to say that he hasn't been.
So he's winning you round.
Pretty good. Yeah, and as long as he keeps it on the pitch, and as long as his mother doesn't come to Ellen Road, then we're all good.
You like that? You can meet me in the car park, Mr. Gallen.
Me outside. So,
she won't get out of Leeds, would she? Let's be honest.
No. Like, and that's clearly where Harrison gets his media training from, because Harrison also isn't a whiz when it comes to not saying the wrong thing in front of the media type of thing. The whole Newcastle transfer at the beginning of what turned out to be the relegation season. But I'm not going to bull and say that he's been terrible. He wasn't good in pre-season at all. But the last 2 games, I have been impressed with him. And I think it was a good thing that he did put in the money behind the bar. But he also let his actions on the pitch do the talking, and I'm fine with that. And he will win me round if he continues to do that. He will win me round. But
sounds like he already has to me.
I'm still emotionally scarred from it because of the fact that it's my club and somebody who has been through not getting promoted, finishing 9th, barely scraping survival, and then relegation shouldn't be the first one out the door. And he was. So that's my opinion on Harrison. But I look forward to being proven wrong because we haven't bought anybody else. So therefore, we need him to prove us all wrong. He needs to prove that Premier League contract that we gave him when we were in a relegation fight.
Yes, definitely so. Kershaw asks, and I'll come to you with this, Kaylee. Now that the girls have seen the end of the window, would you have kept Patrick Bamford and Largi Ramazani?
Yes for Ramazani, no for Bamford. And you all know my opinions on Patrick Bamford.
Love him, right?
I'm in love with him. But Largi, I think Largi was one of our strongest players. I'm really sad to see him go. And as for Bamford, he wasn't doing much anyway. He was sitting on the bench, and when he did come on, yeah, he was good a few times, but he'd shoot too far and miss the goal completely. But I am sad to see him go, like really sad.
Did anyone else? I mean, what about you, Luce? What about Largi? Would you, especially with how the window ended, we've ended up with a 24-man squad. So there was all this talk of how many players can we fit in, etc. And it turns out we couldn't even fill the quota. And I think they let Largi go because they thought they were getting Buonanotte, which, by the way, folks, on Twitter today, Buonanotte's interview for Chelsea said, "I can't wait to play Champions League football." They have just announced their Champions League squad. He is the only new signing that hasn't even made the squad. So that serves him right. But I'm also very annoyed that he went there. But yeah, do you think we should have got Buonanotte over the line before letting Ramazani go loose?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you look at it now. I looked at it when he was going and I thought, that's a bit of creative flow that we're just letting go there.
Yeah.
But especially now, sort of, we've seen how the window ended. It's like, well, that is going to backfire on us.
Yeah. No, exactly. What about Bamford? Would you have kept him about?
No.
Oh,
No.
No.
Never been his biggest fan.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Eevee versus Jack's mum in that Misfits boxing. Maybe we can we can get it up. Ian says, from Sunderland, I can't see where your goals are coming from. You've spent 50 million in the attack. You've played 3 games and hasn't scored from open play. I know, right? We'll wait and see, though. Like Eevee's told me tonight, it's not a problem yet. So let's wait and see if that is the case. Yeah, Mellier's still here as well. That's a bit of a mad one, in it? But yeah, that was funny line, actually. I don't know if you saw that, Danny, but the line in the piece from Mr. Evans said, we all came to the agreement in the end that it was best for all parties that he stayed. What, as a 4th choice keeper, and so he can run down his deal? Like, I don't know if this guy thought we were born yesterday, but surely that just doesn't fly, you know?
For me, that I think maybe I'm assuming it's obvious what that means. Mellier didn't like what he was given, and he's thinking about his contract bonus next year. And Leeds can't do much about that if he refuses to go to certain clubs. And then the other clubs that he would have been interested in never came for him. Because he's proved over a few seasons he's not at the best level right now.
No.
So yeah, it's the PR garbage that they're awful at.
Yeah.
To get us on board with the fact he's going to stay and take wages offers for another season.
Exactly. And then leave for
in my
free.
opinion.
Then leave for free. It's mad.
I was ready for him to leave 2 years ago, if I'm honest.
That's fair. That is fair.
Has anybody known a player that we've had in recent history who has declined like faster than Mellier has, given where he was, the records that he broke in our first season back in the Premier League, and now to being not being able to be shipped off after having, for somebody of his age, and I don't buy the bull about him still being a young keeper. Experience overpowers age at any point, you know, and he's had so much experience and he's lost on basically every statistic that you can possibly measure a goalkeeper by, other than clean sheets, which, if we're being realistic, is a defence win rather than the goalkeeping win. I can't think of a player that we've genuinely thought was going to be the next big thing and then just go absolutely, and in front of our very eyes as well.
Yeah. I don't think I disagree, really. When the player that came on in that first game against Arsenal was just like chalk and cheese to what's left. But yeah. Drew Falitho here says, don't worry, Leeds fans. West Ham will give you a couple of open play goals when you visit us. I'm not sure, mate. I'm not sure, mate. You just beat Forest 3-0. You must be bouncing. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Listen, girls, is there anything else anyone would like to add?
Let's stay positive. Siege mentality.
Okay.
But it's an international break, so we're allowed to be annoyed for a week. And then let's create that siege mentality behind the team. We can still be vexed with the club, though.
This time next Wednesday, we'll be like 3 days away from playing on the Saturday, and we can be all like, we're going to do Fulham. Let's go, you know?
Okay.
So we'll do that.
Yeah.
Listen, folks, if you haven't already, make sure you follow the girls on their respective social medias, which will be in the description. Also, make sure you go follow Eevee on Discourse of a Peacock. Maybe some of the girls might have some channels coming soon as well. Watch this space. Maybe. Yeah, I'm still trying to convince them. Yeah, smash me a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. Get your comments in. Make sure you show these some loves. Thanks, as always, for watching. Tomorrow is Thursday. I don't know what's happening tomorrow, if I'm honest. We'll see. We'll see if anything happens. Hopefully, Leeds don't do any interviews to make everyone angry. They should just stay away for a bit and maybe, I don't know, maybe get a free in or something, even though they said they don't want to. But just throw us a bone. Throw us a bone. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye now.